Damian Galvin, thank you for accepting our invitation. Welcome
My
to
pleasure.
Coffee and Stories. And just a quick review of what Coffee and Stories is a space for everybody in Romania who loves to speak English, who is a part of that space, be they expatriates, repats, professionals from multinationals, Romanian diaspora. We invite you all to watch because it's a different level of conversation. And not just from the intellectual point of view, but from the perspectives we have on life, on how we relate to each other, the stories we can tell, and what we can learn from each other. I promise you very interesting guests, and I promise they're not all going to be American. You're the first British-Irish, right, guest? So thank you again for coming. I hope everybody had some water, some coffee. It's a very snowy day, and it's windy, but everybody made it on time. So thank you to the Busy Live team for being here on time at Cardinale Cafe. Princess Lia, how do your Saturday mornings look like?
Not typical. I think to be a successful, mature mother, you have to have a sense of humor and you have to be flexible. So I am double jointed. Our son, the little Prince Karl Ferdinand, who was the first royal baby to be born in a former Soviet bloc country in 90 years. Doesn't take his responsibility all that seriously, but I want him to be very proud of what Romania has been, is, and will be. The morning on Saturday, we have to focus on Scouts. He's cercetaș, and I like it very much because, like his love of Aikido, it teaches not just discipline and punctuality, modesty, helping, but the responsibility all children have to be generous when they can, to be respectful of tradition, and also respectful to the institutions. What I like about this particular Scout troop is that it's Saint Teresa, which is Catholic, and that's one of the areas that I will touch on, is for children today to be knowledgeable of many religions. We're proud and very humble about the fact that in my family, it's only been Romanian Orthodox on both sides. But in today's world, children truly have to learn to respect and embrace other people's beliefs and be knowledgeable. So after the preparation with his rucksack and a good hearty breakfast, which is sacred in our family, I truly feel that's our time, where I'd love to say the phones are turned off, but pretty much they are. And then he has a French fun class, which is with one of his dear friends, Daria, and it's acting. This was a Romanian actor who did quite well in France and wants to come back for a period of time and teach children self-confidence, how to express themselves more poetically, etc. And then, of course, it's important that there's the playtime afterwards. Today, I'm not quite so sure what we're going to do, but something inside will be fun.
And he loves trains. And just before the show
Damian
started,
was aware of
yes,
this, correct.
Damian offered one of his, was it your childhood train set or? Yeah?
Yeah.
So how big
That's
is it?
special.
1.5 meters by 1.
Okay, so you are offering it to the prince. Hopefully he's going to enjoy it. Christmas is almost here. Thank you for doing that.
Pleasure.
You know, I wish I could say the same thing about being as responsible with the education during the weekend for my children. When I left this morning for the show, only my son was kind of up. He was, you know, he could have still slept some more, and I thought, good hearty breakfast or cereals or milk, which is the American version, and guess what I chose because I had to run out the door. But children's education in the United States is full of activities, and you know, returning after 10 years, I noticed that more and more parents fill up their kids' weekends with activities. They're really packed. And where is the time for play? Do you remember, what did you used to do growing up in the UK on a Saturday? Was it tennis and piano and French and all that, or was it just play?
Mischief mostly. Yeah, all sorts of things really. I mean, we had a very simple childhood, so didn't have the technology that we've got today. So playing in the field, playing in trees, making camps, things like that, fishing, camping, making fires that we shouldn't have done, things like that. Yeah.
You grew up in an Irish family, right?
Yeah.
And are there any specific customs? The holidays are coming, and I saw something that you posted on Facebook, an Irish wedding. It was so funny. I commented on that.
Yeah.
Very funny moment. And is there something you recall about the Irish tradition that you miss, you would love to have here?
Yeah. Well, I used to spend my childhood in Ireland, so every opportunity, summertime, Christmas time, and so on, we go to Ireland, and it's a great community there. And dancing is a huge thing. So you go, in these small villages, you go to, let's say like Bran or somewhere, a nice small community, everybody from 8 years of age to 90 really goes dancing on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and it's very inclusive. It goes on till the silly hours, 3 in the morning, and there's children there and so on, but very inclusive. And it's
I think he had more fun on Saturdays than I did.
Yeah.
I think so too.
But I did go I went to a tango club thing in Muncie last night, and that was very similar. It was all age
a tango class in Muncie, where?
Tango, in Piazza Muncie.
Piazza Muncie.
And it wasn't just tango, it was salsa and bachata and other things, but the age group, I'm used to seeing that in Bucharest with an age group of, let's say, 20 to 35. And last night was really 30 up to 70, I think. It's nice to see. So I haven't seen that in a while.
Okay, why don't you share? Next time that there's a class, can you share it so everybody can know?
Oh no, you bring your cameras so that we can film this.
That's
when
right.
you were talking about childhood Saturdays, it's interesting because although we were picked randomly, out of a hat probably, there's not a mirror image. It's interesting. The fun part is also very important for children, to relax, to recharge, but to plug into family. That is one thing that I grew up as a child in the Midwest, and I think of it as being a microcosm of Romania. Michigan, the topography, the admiration of sports, close community, close family, and very much it was, your day had to have a purpose. So what has helped me, I think, give me an anchor when I'm dealing with challenges, either lobbying in Washington for Romania or in the European Union, started on my Saturdays with my Romanian parents. My mother was a talk show host for the Canadian and American diaspora. It was piped all over and had been on Radio Free Europe, so on and so on. It was no politics, but all culture, religion, topical areas. But the point was that in the studio, it was the same studio that Motown used. And so when Doina and I, my sister, my older sister, we would go to the conservatory, and we had ballet and piano, and then we would go and wait in the green room for my mother. But there would always be a parade of senators who were campaigning in Michigan, the governor, so on, because radio was so powerful in that era. Lastly, we would be elbow to elbow with the Motown people, and I saw how normal and how dedicated they had to be. Frankly, to see the Commodores, to see the Supremes, to see Stevie Wonder, to see the Jackson family, and be very relaxed, and also see the sacrifice that it takes to get what you want, or what's good for your family, or what you think humbly is good for your country. Work preparation was the mantra that we had on Saturdays.
So your mother's show was on Saturday.
Oh yes, yes, and
okay.
always in the weekdays, our home was filled with the wonderful Romanian music, popular doinas, the classical composers, Romanian, because she had to prepare her programs. So I can sing with the best of them. Not a soloist, but a good choir alto voice.
Should I say, me too.
You too.
Yes.
Bravo, bravo.
When in your childhood, I think it was in our childhoods that the desire to do something for the community came up, even though it didn't manifest in my case until I emigrated to the United States, because the environment here didn't push you, you know, past 1989. It didn't push you towards charity. It pushed you to promote yourself and, you know, affirm yourself and build a business and succeed. Now it's more like that. It's more open. You know, young people want to be a part of an NGO. They want to be a part of a young leaders society organization. But back then, in the early 2000s, it was, how can I make some money?
Catch-up time.
Catch-up time, that's exactly right. But I feel the desire to contribute is in each one of us. And you were lucky you had your parents and you had your family to steer you in that direction early on. And maybe the parents of my generation are doing that for their kids, but it's still missing. It's not at the level in Romania that it is in the United States or that it is in England. What can we do to show our kids how important contribution to society is, that they have to give first? You have to give first. And it's the underlying mentality in Romania that, you know, it's coming from the communist era where you have to wait to receive. Somebody's gonna give it to you. You know, the state's gonna give you. You don't have to basically do anything. It's that mentality we have to get rid of, because first you have to give something of yourself. So maybe from your experiences, what triggered that in you?
I think that with Romania, we know we have progressed when we can look very objectively at each epoch and see what was successful, what was evil, what was good. Each area of our history had these mirror images. And not to say if we don't learn from this, we're going to make the same mistakes, but we can save a lot of time if we morph and not plagiarize, but use the successes of the past and try to avoid the mistakes of the past. But on civic responsibility, perhaps the best stepping stone would be for not just young people, but people who are in transition, to pick something that they're passionate about, something that gives them a jump in their step. Everyone now has to accept that women are not working because they're trying to find themselves and they're trying to become a different kind of person. The issue is that women are out there helping to pay the bills, and that charitable moment, that contribution that they make to whatever is close to their heart or close to their career advancement should be what they would look at. Not to do too many things, because you can look back and say, I've forgotten my family, or I've really forgotten myself. I was so anxious to be on this committee or that committee. What I do advise Romanian artists more than anyone is, I'll take it from a UK citizen, David Hockney. David Hockney was doing very successful water colors, paintings, and so on, but he had reached his plateau. Hockney then went to the United States with letters of introduction and proceeded to say, how can this help my career, but how can this also help my soul? So he volunteered to paint the flats for the Los Angeles Opera, doing their upcoming performance of Turandot. Why? And he said, I'm doing this for free because I love opera, and this is one of my favorite operas, so perfect timing. But I won't charge you if you put me on your board of governors, which means he was able to meet the very wealthy nouveau riche who wanted to collect modern art, and he would make that connection, if you will. So what I would suggest modestly to the women in your audience, and you have an army of fans, I know, and to not just young people, but those people who are young at heart, to select something that is fun for you, also serious in that it's going to not be a waste of your time. Be it involving in an outdoor activity, be a big sister or a big brother to a group of youngsters or individuals who are in a transition, who have divorced, who either have their families growing, and now it can be not just a second chance, but a second childhood for your soul.
That's right. That's wonderfully put, really. And Turandot is my favorite opera as well. And didn't Hackney just sell one of his paintings? I mean, one of his paintings was just sold for $80 million. And I knew that originally when he sold it, when he actually sold it to the first buyer, and I made this comment on Facebook, and I couldn't believe it. He sold it for $18,000. And now it was resold for $80 million.
Yes.
And
Always
my
the way, isn't it? Always the way.
and I was thinking, but you know, the artist, the painter.
For a living artist,
yes, for a living artist, it's traumatic. You get nothing out of that, you know, 80 million. So somebody should do something about that.
Share is those individuals in your audience that are, you know, very serious, and they're lawyers and they're business people and so on. One of the areas, you just hit on something interesting, to combine in your blessed right side of the brain with individuals that have the left side, the creative side. And that intermixing is very stimulating. And one of the things was we did a fundraiser in the United States, and it was for the countries that would be emerging after the wall went down. And Romania was, we lobbied several friends. And what we did is we approached many artists who were quite sincere about human rights and the blessing of democracy and freedom, but still respectful that each of these countries had a great deal that they have already offered the world. So coming in with respect. We had an art auction in Los Angeles where there's a big ethnic community, Romanian, Polish, so on. And what we realized is the law is totally against artists. If you're an artist and Picasso and you want to donate Guernica to some cause, you can only take a tax deduction of the costs of the materials, the paint and the white canvas, so nothing. However, if you are a collector, you can take a tax write-off of what was the auction price, which is very, very generous. So what we suggested with the lawyers on the committee was, you're an artist, Dana, Damian is an artist, give each other their works of art, you get a great deal as a collector now, not an artist, and he also, so everyone wins. That's the kind of NGOs I want your audience to look at. Things that can make you look, to stretch your brain, to also do one thing, beginning and finding a result. That's very rewarding.
That's true. Is this why you're doing tango classes? To develop the left brain?
And the back. And the back.
I do lots of things to develop my left brain, to be honest with you. But, yeah. No, I don't do tango. I used to dance salsa years ago. I travelled all over the world to dance salsa. It's a big passion.
That's
used to be
wonderful.
A big passion of mine. I've danced from Egypt to Jerusalem to Bangkok to.
But you do tango, correct?
I can do it. I'm not very good, but
Okay.
I can.
Are
You
there any
single? Are you single? I know a Romanian who is very serious. I'm not going to say her name, but do I have a girl for you?
That's perfect. So I also know a girl for you. So we have to talk.
All right. Probably the same one.
Who knows? Okay, so you came here 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And you have this love story with Romania. You fell in love with Romania. You didn't want to work for Aston Martin anymore.
Yeah.
You didn't want to live in the UK anymore. Just wanted to be here. And when I met you, and Damian and I went together to a real estate gala 3 weeks ago, was it? And you know, we had a business-like conversation maybe for 10 minutes, and then he started to tell me about all the charity work that he does, and you're so modest about it. How do you go from, moving from the UK to Romania, because you obviously saw some business opportunities, and then discovering something in the country that triggered your empathy? You wanted to get involved, and I'm curious to know if you've done that in the UK prior to moving to Romania. And
Yes,
what causes attracted you the most in Romania?
Well, actually, it's the reverse that brought me. I didn't come here for business. I came here for charity originally. I came as a guest of the fire service to come and renovate an orphanage in Constanza. But basically, for 10 years before that, I would hire a big stately home somewhere, hire a DJ, a salsa band, and a magician and things, and organise a black tie ball, and then collect all the money. Claim it was mine, submit it to charity, claim the tax back. So for your 10 euros or whatever, I would actually give 12 to charity. Probably shouldn't admit that on camera, but that's what I did. So after I'd covered all the costs, your 10 euros became 12 to charity. And as I say, I did that for more than a decade. And then finally I took the money with me and came to Romania to use that. Instead of just sending it to Oxfam or UNICEF, I actually came with 6 or 7 friends.
Very wise,
and,
very wise.
Yeah, and actually put it first hand to use. And then in doing that, I fell in love with Romania, and then I just wanted to find any opportunity to come to Romania, not with a business idea. I came with 5 different business ideas, and the easiest one to start was property management. So this is how I started too. I just made it work for me, rather than having a good business idea. I found a business need, and then made it work for me, and then carved a lifestyle. But for the first 7 years, I had no income. I literally would pay the salaries, pay the cost, and then bring money from home to cover the cost.
If I can compliment Damian, it's not just Damian's altruistic side. It's very Irish about this generosity. One of the first charities that I was stunned, absolutely stunned. Are you sure? Am I reading this, the zeros correctly? Was the Irish charity. It was benefiting Bacau, an orphanage, and we were able to convince, when she was top of the charts, or top of the hits was the program in London.
Top of the pops.
Top of the pops was then Her Royal Highness the Duchess of York. She was very, very popular. Everyone wanted her. And she convinced the Irish charities, it was a group of charities, they came out with convoys, new clothes, new toys, not battered secondhand. It was very remarkable. Plus $80,000 at that time, 80,000 pounds, 80,000 pounds that were given to this charity. And what the Irish had done is a check-up that, and there's one other thing I learned, and we've done it almost when we have material goods. Instead of giving to the target, in this case was children, and new toys, and then you see the staff kind of not saying anything, but you know what their thoughts are. I wish my son or I wish my daughter had one. What we would do is not rub any of this in anyone's nose. We avoided temptation, and that is, first pick is yours. For your son, with our blessing, pick the toy you want. Then there's no shame, then there's no temptation to do something that you're going to have sleepless nights about. And this was the Irish who perhaps experience, perhaps just a wonderful open heart. So very much with Romania now, I think the best gift to give all of our fellow countrymen and women is the gift that no one can take away from you, and that is a legitimate, hard-earned education in the field that you have chosen. Yes, it's sad, but it's not just in Romania, where people buy law degrees, or people, this is shocking, we're now finding that in the States. There are some bought medical degrees.
God.
I'd hate to be examined by a doctor who just cheated their way, or plagiarism is something that people have gotten away with. But it's everywhere. It's everywhere. When it's that certificate, that acknowledgement that you have finished your master craftsman internship, your high school degree, your trade, etc., or even one of the things that I feel is the most rounded education. When I was lucky enough to be on the postgraduate business degree program at Oxford, I was impressed that all of us were experienced business people. It wasn't like you just graduated from business school. You don't learn business from a textbook. You have to be out learning, making decisions, as you said, making mistakes, so taking the risk. Very much what I saw was our particular college had many Fulbright Rhodes Scholars. And some of my best friends to this day are from Singapore. And the education that they get by 8 months, 9 months civil service, where instead of going into the army, you go into a camp and you learn how to diaper a baby, how to balance a paycheck, how to make beds, how to ask for a loan. These are things that perhaps your parents or your grandparents asked you, but no one's got time any
Life
longer.
skills.
And it's very much an education that I hope that the fine ministers of education that we've been blessed with over the years will incorporate more school after school programs. This is where we need money from the Brussels, because the children are starting to be latchkey children. There's nothing to do except hang out in the mall. There's nothing to do because in a different era you would go to the church clubs and so on. It isn't in today's world. So if there would be school after school teaching about the lessons of life, I would be most satisfied.
I agree with you 100%. And you mentioned something that's so close to my own mission with what I'm trying to do with Fundația Casa Tianu, vocational education, mastering a trade. And I go back to you. You used to work for Aston Martin. How was life there? You know, people knew a trade back then.
Yeah.
How did
absolutely.
you learn it, and how was life in that environment?
It was a wonderful environment, to be honest. I started life as a car mechanic, so for the first 4 years of my life I was under cars in this weather, changing gearboxes and brakes and steering and suspension. It was a wonderful grounding, let's say. And so basically when I left school I left with nothing, blank sheet of paper. I had 0 qualifications. Started as a car mechanic, and I think I just matured late, or I don't know. I mean, I think the brain is a muscle. The more you use it, it does definitely get stronger, that's for sure, because I was pretty stupid back then. But anyway, I was a mechanic for 4 years and I learned an enormous amount, really an enormous amount, and then I progressed. I went to university 4 times.
4 times?
4 times, yeah. And then not because I failed. I did 4 different courses. And so I worked originally for Jaguar. Well, first of all, BP, British Petroleum, which was an amazing company to work for. That was kind of a mixture of intellectuals and craftspeople, the whole spectrum, everything from chemists to mechanics to geologists, physicists and everything. So that was really where I got the taste of education. And because I had ideas, but I couldn't apply them unless I was in this position or this position or this position. And I realised actually to be able to implement this, which I know is a good idea, I need that job title. And because of that, I went off to college and then worked for Jaguar as a design engineer, then graduated, worked for Ford, and then I progressed then to Aston Martin. And the one thing about Aston Martin, when I joined, it was just a handful of people. They've been around since 1912. They hadn't made any money at all from 1966 to when I joined. They were constantly making a loss, produced beautiful cars, but not cost effectively. So I joined them, and they didn't have fantastic reliability either. Ford had just bought them shortly before, and so we grew the business from literally a handful of engineers to, I think there was 400 odd engineers when I left, and now it's a world-class company. So to be there for that 12 years during that transition was a great one. I travelled the
I
world.
just realized why you selected both of us. We're both car enthusiasts.
Yeah.
You're with under the motor. I'm from a suburb of Detroit, and every year it was like the Hajj. You went to Cobo Hall to see the newest cars and so on. And because I did have many relatives who were either executives with Ford or on the line. I also went under the car, so I think I know more than most people.
I'm definitely not the
That
host
was the
for this
connection.
conversation. I know nothing about cars. Absolutely.
Well, actually, a lot of my colleagues, when I joined Ford, I was surprised how many engineers had literally zero clue about cars. They were very good engineers. They're technically very good, but they'd never worked on a car. And this is one of the things that allowed me to excel, because people engineer something simple like a door handle or it doesn't matter, cigarette lighter, and when it breaks, you have to take half the car apart to access that. And because no one's ever done that, they just don't get it. And it's as simple as that. And if you've done it, if you've taken it apart once, it's the same with anything. I mean, even around the house, to do something, if it takes you half a day to do something so simple, if you've got the chance to change it, then you change it. So you're not alone in that. There's plenty of very clever people that don't have any clue how to change spark plugs.
But maybe Donna is ahead of her time. Cars soon are going to be push button and they drive themselves.
I was the one who gave that feedback, so you know. Well, my brother is an auto journalist. He writes about cars for years and years, and he loves cars. And I told him recently, listen, you should teach me about cars. I know nothing about, how is it possible? My own brother, he knows everything about cars. And other than, liking a color or a shape, absolutely no information. Cars were always at the top of the production industry in various countries. So in the United States, when I think about Ford was not only a car manufacturer, he was an innovator. What happened to innovation in fields like that? Now I feel that it's driven by technology, fully by technology and necessity and avoiding traffic and creating a better infrastructure. But that kind of innovation, serving the needs of a society as it used to be then, that's gone. So I feel like something's been taken away from what made it special, human. I don't know if you get my point.
And what makes Romanians special, when we were pre-coffee program, talking about that, we are a gifted nation of musicians, people who respect art, who respect, and our literacy remains very competitive. And yet, this is the area that needs to be marketed more. With the whole point about the different industries that are looking for brains. The best hackers in the world are apparently Romanians. The innovation now with Cluj starting perhaps another hub of competition to Silicon Valley with the leadership that Mayor Bach and the city mothers and fathers are going to make something very competitive, we hope, which will generate more and more jobs. It's also the attitude that we've got an army of some of the best trained singers, composers, artists, because of the school system, the educational system that we have with the Accademia de Musica, the high schools here that are Dinu Lapati, so on. The professors could make much more money in the private sector, yet they remain as teachers and educators at a lower pay, very low pay. The point is that an area that I would like to see, perhaps it's the segue between trade and the educational, is one of the areas that we had very competitive was our entrepreneurs, agents and managers. There was a fleet of Marcel Avrams during the Cold War. They created some of the best opera singers. Not that they were only the best, but they were marketed, they were booked, they were put into the best houses, Covent Garden, the Met, Germany, Munich. It was a curiosity to me, what has happened to this? It's one of the best jobs, and I would like to see the high schools and the universities that are pushing MBAs and preparation in your baccalaureate for a business career. A career that has big, clean money. You travel all over the world if you have a stable of artists, and you have a fascinating life, fascinating life. I think Romanians are born for this, with the artistry and with the crafts, as you were saying. It's a lost art, but it is a big moneymaker if you've got talent. And with the IAs, to when we brought in to launch the breast cancer awareness campaign, the first in Central and Eastern Europe.
When was that?
Right after the revolution, we brought Naomi Campbell. Got attention, and we were able to get 83, thanks to her, 83 newspapers, magazines, cover stories about how Romania was taking a diligent, responsible, preventive step of women interneting with women on examinations. Harvard was very, very helpful with us. And the point is that very much on that campaign, what we learned was that the Romanian women actually should be UNESCO protected. I've been educated in the East. I also did some of my master's studies in Japan. And we really have a huge resource with the women. Loyal, feminine, hardworking, very loyal, sometimes too loyal to the menfolk, but this is an area that needs to be encouraged and protected.
So you grew up in an environment of learning about Romania, knowing about Romania, the traditions, proud. Growing up proud to being, Romanian. But you knew Romania. When did you first come and visit?
2003.
Okay. And what did you know about Romania growing up when you were nothing? Okay. Yeah, that's the
what
typical
a love
case.
Story this is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a great honour to live here. I consider myself privileged to live in Romania. I wouldn't go back.
You would never go back?
Never. This is home. I mean, unless I have a medical issue or something. I mean, there are some things that are much better done in the UK than here, but generally speaking, no. As I say, the first 7 years I was struggling to survive, but I was living in paradise, Brasov, so there's a price for paradise, and it was a great pleasure.
Okay.
And the people I work with, I mean, I've got an amazing team of people, 21 employees, including me, 21 people. and such a mixed bag, and they're, you know, really, really hard workers. And you know, if I look at the examples of the work we've done, renovations, and we do property management and renting, selling, and everything in between. And if I look at the amount of work that the people have put in over the last 11 years, incredibly hard work, working people. So
You told me a story that really touched my heart when we met at the real estate gala, and you said that you and a team of other people, you go and you work and you visit and you bring joy to a mental hospital.
yeah.
Tell me about it. A mental hospital, not children, not, you know, underprivileged segments of society, a mental hospital.
These
Why?
are lovely people though, they're like babies. I mean, they're really, really special people. They're
Where?
gentle.
Where is it?
There's different ones, but there's one, I was in one last Sunday in Belochanka, South
Belochanka.
Caucasus, yeah. And these are innocent, beautiful souls, untouched by society. They're as pure as you can get. And it's a really nice experience. And the way I describe it to people, if you imagine you're stuck in a dry well, you've got food and you've got where to sleep and so on, but you're literally trapped in a well. You don't see anybody for years, decades actually. You're just trapped in that well. And if you never see anyone and you don't have anything to look forward to, you literally go crazy. You lose your soul. And what I say to volunteers that come with me, if you just go once a year, poke your head over, how are you? You know, will be okay. Even if you don't stay too long, knowing that that person is going to come back and poke his head over the well in a year's time keeps you going somehow, just for a little bit longer at least.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just in this well looking up thinking, I hope somebody sees me, and they never do,
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
I know.
what is there? So just by going, and
Yeah.
the first time I used to go to the orphanages, but the thing about orphanages is that they're oversubscribed. I know that's an odd thing to say, but they draw immediate attention. You know, cats and children draw attention from almost everybody, so they will never eventually be as hard done by as other groups of society. Mentally handicapped is exactly the opposite. I mean, you just literally cross the street to avoid somebody that's got mental illness. So the first time I went, it was in Brasov in Eminescu, right in the main square, and I lived not too far, and I heard some screams and noises, but they're harmless. They're just scary, you know. But you know, I heard the yells from the patients inside, and one Christmas day, I just decided to go to Metro, fill 5 carrier bags with chocolate and bananas and so on. And I went in there with a spring in my step, and you know, thinking, you know, I can see all these people and make them happy. Every single person was knocked out cold, drugged up to the eyeballs, midday on Christmas Day, and it broke my heart. Thinking, you know what? If the Christmas Day midday they're like this, you know, how is it for the rest of the year?
Yeah. Oh my
And
God,
so this is when I started to go every year. And
I
this-
really want to applaud you for what you do, because this is, and you know, I want to ask Christina, how much longer do we have? 10 minutes? Okay, that's good.
Give us a 3-minute countdown because I have a gift.
Oh,
All right, good.
thank you.
Another coincidence, you're talking about mental health. 2 days ago, I'm asked to be keynote speaker for an autistic charity, NGO. And I have friends that have savant autistic child here, and friends that are in other countries that have. And it is interesting to see the different ways the not just in a general term mental health, but autism. And what was fascinating to me is to at least have some speech that would show that I did my homework. I found out that Isaac Newton and Einstein were savant autistic. And in Romania, it was boggling for me. Carijali, who is one of the greatest theater writers, satire, etc., and a journalist, very much his plays and some of his pieces are topical today, absolutely topical. Autistic. Titulescu, the finest diplomat that Eastern and Central Europe had birthed. This was a League of Nations which birthed United Nations, and he was the only one who was elected twice to be president. And then everyone's hero, Jorga, a man who's, I understand, wrote 800 books, was a politician, was a commentator, very much the tutor for my husband's grandfather, Carol II, and a savant autistic. So from that standpoint, one wonders, is nature, is Mother Nature evolving so that this type of isolation, this type of concentration, this type of ability to memorize numbers, is this looking backwards or looking forwards in our evolution?
Interesting question. Yeah.
Well, without Dana here, we're going to take over the show. This is a revolution right now. One of the things that has been just fascinating, listen to Damian, is how have you lived with the name Damian? Because one of the best horror films ever was Damian. And I do remember my sister and I, we went to see it, shame on us, but it was probably the best written. And there's only one Damian, and that's Elizabeth Hurley's son. So have you lived with being teased?
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah,
of course, of course.
Yeah.
It's a good pickup line. Yes?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Fine. No, the film industry here, another area which I hope, I want to congratulate on this 100th anniversary. There's been another anniversary that's been very much of an exclusivity for your program, Dana, and that is that Paunescu, who is the founder and brains and beauty of Castel Films, which has put Romania on the map. We now have several studios, Buftea and Cantaris, which Bobby Paunescu, no relation, I understand, have given jobs, given huge opportunities. And the issue that's interesting is our time right now to get out there and spread the word that finally Romania, we've worked 7 years, my husband and I. Vlad has worked 13 years. There's now a tax incentive. That is what was the killer when budgeters are, producers are going over, well, should we select Poland? Should we select Toronto? Where should we go? Romania has lost opportunities because we have everything here. We have everything.
Yep.
However, we don't have the tax incentives. And again, we were just lucky, and I'd rather be modest than exaggerating. Prince Paul and I were with friends in Paris, who's in the same hotel we are, but at the top of his game at the time, Harvey Weinstein. And we had mutual friend, and so he came, introduced himself, and proceeded to say, I've had a nightmare with Bulgaria. I don't want to go to Poland, and I've got a film where it's going to be an epic. I know it. So you don't take that lightly when Mr. Weinstein, and we said, why don't you join us for dinner? We're going to be truthful with you. We want to lobby about Romania. And it worked. Maybe we gave him enough good champagne, but it worked. And we should have given him Suica or Palinka. But
Right.
what was the opportunity is we convinced him with Anthony Mangelis, fine director, to bring Nicole Kidman, Jude Law, Renee Zellweger, who won,
Cold Mountain.
yes, you're a Brashovian, so you knew it was filmed there. She won Best Supporting Actress, and Donald Sutherland was here. It was a budget of $110 million. It created jobs. It created opportunities for the Brashov great restaurants. It was extra work for the beauty salons, makeup artists, and so on and so on. The only thing that was frustrating is they brought all of the food from Italy. And I said, we have the best tomatoes, we have the best apples, we have everything. Don't come back again with food from abroad. We've got the best produce. But I will say the one area that bravo to the Romanians for simply not saying no. Many examples, but this one was great. And that was that Mangelis was given our written promise to Mr. Weinstein that if anything goes wrong, call us at any time and we'll try to help. Can't guarantee, but we'll be there for you. We get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Mangelis said the 2,000 extras that are coming in have been blocked. It's nobody's fault. It's costing us money. Can you help? How much time? 0. So we made a call to Tinka, Minister of Defense, and Pașcu, Secretary of State of the Defense Department. Can we have a meeting? Please, please. It worked. 2,000 Romanian soldiers, it wasn't any speaking part, were there in the pit with Jude Law. They got the same salary as any extra. They ate the same food as Nicole Kidman. They had great fun. It was a good morale booster, and it showed Hollywood Romania is the can-do place. So we're blessed now with my former neighbor, Francis Ford Coppola, is here 7 times filming. He opened the door to Steven Seagal. Everyone has said it's the best kept secret. So I hope with your program and your thousands and thousands of viewers,
Hundreds
spread
of
the
thousands.
word of Romania for your vacation, from Romania for the second part of your best life, and also our goods need to have a etiquette in the back, made in Romania, if that's the case.
I have actually seen that label multiple times in the United States on various, items, including clothing.
Yep.
But something puzzles me. Here we are talking about how great Romania is, and we know when we meet foreigners, other foreigners, let's say, we know what to say about Romania. We talk about the tourism, innovation, creativity, people who would go, above and beyond to make a project possible, and they're responsive. If I would have invited 2 Romanians who have lived here, for the majority of their lives, do you think the conversation would have been as optimistic or as positive? And that worries me because I returned here 3 months ago, and I interact with people, taxi drivers and people in the market and people in the grocery shops. And everybody has such a negative outlook on Romania that I have not sensed in the United States, and I'm not sure if people, even though they're unhappy in the UK, there's a pride of being British, there's a pride of being Irish, there's a definitely a pride of being an American, and you don't say, you're not overly pessimistic when you talk about your country to somebody who's from another country. You try to exemplify the good things. And I don't find that here, and it puzzles me. Why is it? What is it in us?
Well,
The Romanians.
there's an overriding sentiment with some Romanians, which is this expression, "Să-moară capul vecinului." And this is definitely an element of it for sure. Where if I can't have a goat, I don't want my neighbour to have a goat, or I want my
Mioritic.
maybe. Yeah.
That's a word that is not in other languages.
Mioritic.
If the neighbor says you have one wish, the genie comes. One wish. What is it?
Yeah, but
I'd
you
like
don't
the
have a
goat of my neighbor to die.
That's right.
So,
Yeah. That's an overriding element. And one thing that, a Romanian told me this, that actually Romanians are not great at organising things. Roadworks and things like this, not I don't mean necessarily in business practices, but if you look at things like Romanian websites, let's say Tarom, it's horrendous. It's like 1970s technology. It's really difficult to navigate, and things are just difficult to use. So you've got there's 2 characteristics which I see are common in Romania. One is that people don't take risk. They won't, if it's not crystal clear, they won't put their name to something. Things are punished hard. There's no mentality of help. If you stop off the rails a little bit, they come down hard on you. The punishments are
2 minutes. We have 2 more minutes of the show.
So the penalties are great. The way the tax system works here is, we're not going to tell you anything, but when you get it wrong, we're going to close your business for you, which scares people away. I mean, literally, if in the UK, if you've got an issue, can I do this? You can call the tax office and say, I'm thinking about doing this, and you'll get an educated, intelligent person saying, these are the rules, here's a booklet, here's a guideline, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
this is key. If you take the element of being disorganised, you take the element of not wanting to take risks, and you take that other slight mentality, this is why, in my opinion, things are held back. And if you could somehow, somebody once said, if you want to fix Romania, just get 100 Germans to run the place. And
Oh my God.
Or at least from Sibiu, or Russia.
That's right.
Exactly.
Personally, I don't want to
That's
work
right.
for Germans, but there's an element of that.
What is that?
You're never going to be able to figure out how to open this because there's no pins, there's no anything. And the trick, when I was a student in Japan, was you don't use paper, you use material.
Okay.
And so
That looks
the gift for
beautiful.
you is...
The scarf.
Yes, that's it. I take the book back. Okay. Very good. This was made in Romania, etc.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Our son was made in Romania, but this is a gift for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I was a widow for 5 years because my husband wrote this
Thank you.
book, and we now we're very, very pleased that we give it. Thanks to underwriting from other NGOs and so on through the schools, and it tells a truthful, positive story of the history of Romania.
Thank you so much. And I have a little gift for the two of you.
Very
This is
good.
a chocolate called Tim. It means te iubesc mult. It's a chocolate with love
It is
messages
gold.
inside, but
Very
especially for coffee and stories, there are kind of philosophical messages inside. So I don't know if we still have time to open them and read at least one. We have. Let's open them, just like a regular box. And who shall read first? Princess Lia, you can read yours first, or I have mine already. Inside the little box, inside this box, there's
actually, this
there's a
box.
chocolate inside. It's
Okay.
a really tasty praline, and this is a
I need to know
wonderful.
your eyesight because I don't have my glasses.
Okay, this is the English version. So you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
My glasses are
May I help?
Yes,
I've got
of course.
20/20.
Please go ahead.
Okay. An ant cannot overturn a mountain, but it can move it slowly, step by step. Preda, Marin Preda.
very
This
good.
is for you. Save it. And mine is beware of banality. If you're going to drown yourself, at least do not drown yourself in a small bowl of water. Dive into the ocean. Octavian Goga.
And mine says, life can be lived anywhere. Its background is of no importance. The intensity is the most essential. Absolutely, we're all in agreement. And thank you so much for
Thank you, Dana.
being here today. And it was a lovely conversation. I hope
And
everybody enjoyed
eu
it.
sunt foarte încântată să vă cunosc.
And thank you for your gift. It's much appreciated. Thank you.